Think building an agent is too much work, too much loop, too much boilerplate before it does anything useful? Or do no-code agent builder platforms feel like a cage the moment you need something real? Let me show you something that solved all of those issues for me, the Antigravity SDK. It avoids both traps. It's a Python framework built to get out of your way and requires as little code as possible. And it's the same foundation Google's own Antigravity IDE and CLI run on. You write the logic and skip everything else. Let me make it concrete. Somewhere in your company, there's an internal tool, a database, an API full of data that your team actually relies on. And your colleagues, they live in Google Docs or Word. So every report turns into the same chore. Dig the data out of that system by hand, copy it, paste it, format it over and over again. The elegant fix is to bring that source to where the writing actually happens. You surface it right inside the document as a Google Docs extension or a Word add-in if that's your world. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Using the Antigravity SDK, I built an assistant that lives inside the doc, reaches into that internal source, and does the busy work for you, like this. So in Google Docs, we can click on Internal Tools and then open our Company Knowledge Assistant. This is a Google Docs integration that we built for this demo. Here we can ask the assistant a question. It will then read the document and give us an answer. Now you might be wondering, nice, the assistant can read the document, but where is the internal data? But let's take this step by step, because so far this was not very hard, right? What we've got is a Google Docs extension, a panel that can read and write the doc, nothing more. It lets my own code directly interface with the document, which means I can bring an existing application right into Google Docs, the same way Google's own Gemini extension works. And it's nothing fancy, a few lines of Google Apps script and an HTML file. The Apps script side is just 3 little functions. Add a menu item, open the panel, and hand my code the document's ID. And the HTML file is the panel, the little chat box you've been looking at, wired to call my agent. To make that panel actually reach into our internal data and do something smart with it, that's where the Antigravity SDK comes in. What we saw was my extension talking to my SDK agent. The agent's running on localhost today, but it could just as easily also run on Google's Managed Agents API. Same agent, different address. And with the SDK, I don't build one big agent, I build a small squad. Let me introduce you. First, the main agent. It reads your goal and it owns the document. It's the one that actually makes the edits, and it carries a Google Docs writer skill. So it knows how to turn a plain word into a clean hyperlink and without mangling your headings and lists. The know-how lives in the skill, and the prompt stays lean and clean. Next, this is the heart of the operation, the researcher. Its whole job is to go and find the real answer in your internal system. In this demo, that system is Google Developer Knowledge MCP. But in real life, this could be any API, any MCP, any service you want to plug into. Your CRM, your pricing engine, your clause library. And it can search the web too, but it cannot touch your document. And one more pair of eyes, the Auditor. A separate agent that looks at the document and the goal and decides one thing, is this actually done? I never let the agent doing the work be the one that declares victory. So now that you've met the squad, do you want to see what they do? So I've already prepared a question here for our agent. We want the agent to go through the whole document, find every Google technology I mentioned, and link them to the official docs. This is something that's a very repetitive task and something that's quite annoying. So we're going to turn on auto approve and let the agent do its thing. What it does now is read the document and try to find all the occurrences of Google technologies. In this case, since this is a briefing document on a development project, there's quite a few of them. So of course it finds the agent development kit and it finds other mentions of the technologies. It goes and searches with the researcher agent through the docs, applies the links, and does its work. And since this works on /go mode, it will do this until it has finished. So now when we scroll through the document, we can see that all the links are set. You just watched our squad of agents rewrite the document on autopilot. That's basically /go mode. The agent executed until our auditor decided it was happy with the result. So now the part I actually care about, because this agent is editing something a human owns. The question is, how much rope do you give it? My answer is total autonomy with exactly one gate. This runs on the Antigravity SDK, which means deny by default write policies. And I leaned hard on that. The policy is 4 lines and it reads like a bouncer's list. Deny everything. Allow read doc, allow web search, but for apply edits, don't allow, don't deny, ask. So reading is free, but the agent cannot change a single character of your document without stopping to ask a human first. When it calls apply edits, the SDK hands that call to my approval gate before anything hits Google servers. And notice when. Mid-run, inside the loop, before the write ever executes. This isn't a check after the agent finishes, it's a declarative policy hook that pauses one specific tool call mid-flight and hands it to my code to approve, block, or rewrite. In-loop governance right in the SDK. My gate reads the doc, simulates the proposed edit on a copy, and renders that unified diff you saw. Accept, and the edit sails through. Reject, and it's blocked. The agent is told no and finds another way. Or, and this is my favorite, just tell the agent what it did wrong in your own words, and the agent applies your version instead of its own. Fully autonomous with one human gate. This is what's called human in the loop. The agent decides what to do, a person still owns the yes. It's not a lack of trust, it's that it's your document. So when we ask the agent to make a change to our document, it has to ask us for permission first before applying a change. If the change that the model proposes is not the one we want, we can tell the model, just give me the right thing I wanted. It will propose again, we approve, and it makes the change. That's how human in the loop works. And we can verify that it's done that by checking the link. So you've met the squad, you've seen them do their work. Now let me show you how they actually run. And it's almost boring, which is exactly the point. The core is plan, edit, verify, repeat. About 100 lines. The main agent reads, reasons about what to change, and proposes an edit. Then my loop rereads the doc and asks one question. Are we there yet? If not, it goes around again. And because a loop that can't stop is a bug, not a feature, I wired in guardrails. If a turn changes nothing or hits the turn cap, it exits. It stops itself before it can ever run away. But here's what makes it fast. The main agent doesn't grind through that list one item at a time. For each technology it finds, it fans out the researcher in parallel. 10 technologies, 10 researchers, all searching at once. And why not just let the model recall the URL? Because it can't. Ask it for a docs URL and it'll cheerfully invent one, a plausible link that will 404. So the researcher doesn't guess. It queries the knowledge source and hands back just the real URL, one clean answer. And remember the privilege split? The researcher can search the entire web, but it cannot touch your document. Only the main agent can even propose a write, and that one, as you saw, still has to ask you. I also added an auto approve toggle. If it's on, the app approves every change for you automatically. That's for when you want to YOLO it and let the squad take the wheel. It's also how the run you just saw flew through hands-free. You might have also spotted our goal toggle. With goal mode off, the agent makes a single pass and stops. With it on, and that's the default, it doesn't settle for one pass. It keeps going until the work is actually done and approved by the auditor. Done, it stops. Not yet, it keeps iterating. 3 roles, each with its own instructions, its own tools, and its own deny by default policy. Now think about what this whole shape unlocks. The agent code is so simple, a tiny loop, a 4-line policy, a couple of skills that I could hand it to someone who isn't an engineer at all. A product manager could open this in the Antigravity IDE or CLI and safely change how the assistant behaves. But they can never touch the internal system underneath, your real data, because the whole agent is decoupled. It only reaches your critical systems through the one API you choose to expose. The sensitive core stays behind the wall. The agent, the part that people actually iterate on, comes out front where anyone can work on it. So here's the shape now. You describe what done looks like. You connect the tool where your truth lives. You teach the agent the know-how as a skill. And you keep the one veto that matters because it's your document. The future of agentic work is less loop and more intent. This was /go, and the whole thing is open source if you want to have a look at it. Links below. Thank you so much for watching and happy coding.